Hello! How's it going, people? YouTube, welcome back to the channel. So I'm going to do a kind of end of the year review of my year. So it's quite funny actually because I've done YouTube now. I've done YouTube for quite a number of years. I've done vlogs, I've done gaming videos, I've done a lot. Built this thing here. This, I don't know if you can see it. Turn it down a little bit. Built this thing here just in front of me, the old Concorde. So I've done quite a lot in terms of YouTube, live streams and whatever. And I don't think I've ever in my entire life done a review of my year. And to be honest, I'm now 50. I've had quite, I want to say a boring life, but I've not really had many years that have like stood out in terms of stuff that's happened. I'd probably say that most years have been, yeah, kind of mundane, just normal. Nothing really is like jumped out. So before I start, and then this is unscripted, I just basically, like a lot of my videos, I maybe like process think stuff before I make it, like maybe during my night shift or maybe even just before I make it, I'll kind of stuff kind of in my head. But generally speaking, I just do this off the top of my head, so it's a bit ad lib and it might even seem a bit confuddled at times. Actually, just having a council barista coffee, absolutely phenomenal. I make it, so it's quite limited. That's so good. But yeah, so start off the video. If you came to me like exactly 1 year ago to this very exact moment, well, what for one, I wouldn't be here. I'd actually be down the road at my old address. Um, Probably actually very similar circumstances. I would have worked my shift this morning. I don't think I was off. I think I was working. So exact same scenario, exact same job, I mean, almost everything's identical. And obviously, I'd probably have been home. I had a wee snooze this morning. I'd probably done the same um, down the road. But if you came to me, if I could like go back in time, like exactly a year ago, and sit down in front of me and say, where do you think you're going to be a year from now? And it's actually quite interesting if you do this yourself. Like you can do it a year, you can do it even 5 years, 10 years from now. But if you'd said where are you going to be, I'd probably still say I'd be down the road. I'd still be married theoretically. I'd still be doing the usual stuff. And if I'd turned around and said, what happens if I told you you're gonna be moved out, you're gonna be single, technically, you're gonna be in a new flat, and you're gonna be like away from it. I'd probably have said, it'd probably been quite hard to take in or to believe. So let's kind of go through the year and sort of go over it. Times and dates could be slightly out, but it's roughly what it is. So this time exactly last year, I had a foot problem. So going back to October, I had plantar fasciitis, which is basically a condition in your heel, and you can get it. You can go to your bed, and you can wake up the next day, and you can have it. It's just it is what it is. And I woke up, I didn't really have it bad. I had quite a mild case of it. It's still really sore. So you basically, it's a pain that's in your heel to your instep, and you can't really put your heel down, and you need to kind of walk on it a little bit. And the first couple of steps it's really painful. Some people really can't even walk, but after you walk on it, it kind of alleviates the pain a little bit, and you're able to walk. Now I wasn't walking great, but I was able to walk as soon as even if you stood still for like a couple of seconds, it's almost going back to the beginning, having to start that process again. So I had that, and then in like December, I was walking around the house, so I couldn't put my heel down, so I was walking like this with my tiptoes, and a lot of the pressure was to the outside of my foot, which basically caused a blister to form, and that blister then turned into an ulcer, a foot ulcer. And that's where all the problems started. So at this very time, exactly 1 year ago today, I was okay. My foot was, at that time, it had developed into an ulcer. So beginning of the month, I think it was in a blister, but by the end of the month, it was an ulcer, and it was like covered over as well, like hard skin. So when I started kind of sanding back that hard skin, it kind of opened up into this crater, and like the middle of it was basically just an open, well, an ulcer's like an open wound basically. And I knew I had problems, but being a guy, obviously, yeah, I just decided to try and, you know, Bear Grylls it and try and make it better, which was never going to happen. So into January, New Year came and went. New Year at my old house was just an absolute disaster. I just hated it. I'm not going to love it on New Year's anyway, but down there it was just an absolute, excuse my French, shit show. And then just basically woke up, went into January just working again, just doing the usual. Time I started getting towards the end of January, I started having, basically, unbeknown to me, the foot ulcer had started to cause an infection, which was actually going through my body. And I think, if I remember, I was off at the beginning of February. I think I had two holidays. I think I had the beginning of February, I was back, and then I was off for my birthday. I think that was 2 weeks I was off for my birthday as well. But around about February, I was starting to feel really quite. I just wasn't feeling right. I felt kind of ill, like sick. And I can remember being off this week, and I think I was working. I think I was actually off the Saturday, but I was in Friday. So Thursday, when I came home from my work, I think it was Wednesday. I was at Thursday. Oh, I'm trying to think my days I was off. I think I was off the Friday. And I think my Thursday, when I came home from my work, I was not in a good shape. My left leg had a kind of skin rash in my shin, and I couldn't touch it. Like, basically, when I came home from my work, I had a kind of funny feeling in my shin, but it hadn't really developed. Over the course of that day, it went from basically I couldn't touch it, and it was excruciating, and it swelled up. And even walking to the toilet was just an absolute nightmare. So I phoned in, I think I was off the Saturday, or whatever day it was, and then I was on holiday. So I spent my holiday basically in bed, recovering from this leg thing. And that kind of dissipated, and then I went back to my work. But between that period, I don't know if I was there a week or 2 weeks. I think I was there 2 weeks, and then I was off again. By the time I got to like that last week before I was off for my birthday in the 25th of February, I really went downhill, like really big time downhill. Um, and I can remember just feeling just sick, just really, really, really ill. To finish this coffee. Oh, coffee's good, man. I do make a good coffee. But yeah, I got to that last week, and I can remember walking in. I don't know what day it was. I think I'd done like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. In fact, it was actually Wednesday. Well, not Wednesday. It was actually Thursday morning. I went into my work, and I basically limped. What I had was ascending lymphangitis, which is from your groin, lymph nodes in here down a disc. Like, it was an inflamed. I don't know if it was like an artery or something. It was inflamed anyway, and I really struggled to walk into my work. Like I was limping, and I think I got there in time, but instead of being like 2 3 minutes earlier, I was basically just making it in time. And I started working. I went down. I looked like absolute shit. I was grey. I just looked ill. I just was not. I just wasn't really well, basically. And I worked a couple of stacks, and I can remember I actually bent over, like leaning on the one of the units, the kind of refrigeration units, and just like taking 10, 20 seconds of respite because I actually felt I was going to pass. I was going to pass out. Oh, sorry. Um, and I just at that time I went, I can't do this. I cannot do this. This is killing me. Um, and I can remember I went to my two work colleagues, and I just said, "Look, I'm going home. I can't continue. I can't walk. I feel ill. There's something wrong with me." At that time, I didn't really have any details. I knew roughly what it was. And I walked home, went to my bed, and the next day, I got up that Thursday, probably about midday. I woke up and I phoned my mum and dad and I says, I need to go into the hospital. I could have went to the doctor, but I just went straight. The plan was just to go to A&E, straight to hospital. And my mum and dad were actually going over to my aunt's. So I think they do that like most Thursdays, every second Thursday, whatever. Now, if I told my mum how bad I was, I would have went to hospital that day. But I went, right, let's just. I mean, I'm not dying. Well, not yet, anyway. And I said, right, okay. And my mum, I said, right, 11 a.m. Friday, Dad will come for me. That was it. And in a way, that gave me, you know how sometimes if you've got something like that, you're really scared and you're worried about going to a place. And then somebody says, right, we'll do it tomorrow. You get that kind of, almost like kind of respite, a kind of happiness, like, oh God, right, I can just chill or try and be comfortable. So I spent the rest of that day. I mean, lying in bed, I was better. I still wasn't really like altogether with it, but it was it wasn't as bad as working and stuff, having to work through something like that. So the next day came. I can remember packing my bag and like I was so unprepared. I had all that time to pack. I didn't even pack a toothbrush. But what I packed in my bag was my iPad and my chargers for my phone and my iPad, and that was it. I, I got to a point where the time was coming up. I got more like scared, nervous, and I mean, I didn't think that I was going to get kept in. I didn't know. I kind of, to be honest, I knew I was going to be kept in, um, but I just didn't know. And I packed nothing. I absolutely went in so unprepared. And my dad picked me up. I walked in. Um, he dropped me off at the A&E. I walked in. He left because obviously I was going to be there for hours anyway. Even if I was getting back home, it still took quite a decent amount of time. And that was it. I walked in. Basically, it took a few hours. Nurse came, tests. A couple hours later, more tests. This, that, the next thing. Then I found out that it was I had my white my was it your white blood cells. So you get a count. So the highest the hospital had ever seen. Like I know it's kind of it's not grim, but they have like they know what the highest is, and it's almost like the highest was I think 400. This guy was it 380 something like that. My white blood count was 230, which is really elevated, like really really elevated. So I had a really bad infection running through my body, and I had this ascending lymphangitis, which is basically your body combating, getting to the source of the damage. It kind of fights it, and that's what that was. So basically, I got moved into a ward. So I went in there about just after 11:30. I got moved into a ward at probably 11 p.m. ish. I got moved into this ward, you, and I was hooked up. Basically, I was on antibiotics from the get go. I got an injection, antibiotics. I got set up with a drip, and I got intravenously. I got, like, I think it was 4 times a day. I'd get intravenous antibiotics into my system. Um, and I can remember getting up and getting all my details. Like, you've got to go through so many details now. Like, what do you identify as, and all that malarkey. But it was great. And one thing I'll say, even before I get into it, the nursing staff were absolutely amazing. Like, just probably the best bunch of people that you'll get. A tough job, 24/7. 365 days a year. These people are on call, doing what they do best. And I mean, I had some great laughs. It was just, it was really, in a way, it was comforting because it was a scary process, and it was scary being in an environment like that where, you know, all this stuff's going on. And I went from one ward, I think I went to another ward upstairs, and I had a private room, which was absolutely great. And I had my 50th birthday so I went in Friday. My birthday was on Sunday, so I had my 50th birthday in hospital. The nursing staff gave me a wee, a wee cupcake with a candle in it. Obviously, it wasn't lit because you're in hospital. But yeah, the staff were just amazing. Like, talking to folk, telling stories, like, just life events that were happening. They were just great. But long story short, I was in there for 6 days. And I can remember lying in my bed. That's another story. I was lying in my bed, and there was a guy up the top bed. Because I was in not a mixed ward, but I was in a ward where there was other people in different. It wasn't just all people with foot problems or whatever. And this guy, the staff came in, pulled the curtains, and you can hear every word they say. It's not as if it's closed off. And this guy was getting told that I think it was his liver, had lacerations, or is it lacerations in it, which was a sign that there's possible cancer. And I mean, this guy's life is just basically flushing down the toilet right in front of you. And that was an eye opener. That you don't. I mean, every day somebody's dealt basically life changing, stories, life changing test results come back, and on one hand it can be, good news, but you get terrible news. And I can remember just lying in that bed thinking, Jesus, I mean, I'm a fairly fit 50-year-old, and this guy's just, I mean, he was in his probably 60s, 70s. I don't know how old he was, probably 60s, and he's been told that he probably doesn't have that long left. I mean, that guy right now could be gone, basically. So that was the bad point of hospital. You just see some devastating news. But basically, I came out of hospital with still a foot that was pretty bad, although I did get it, basically you get it cleaned. So I went to the podiatrist, and I got it debribed, basically. And it just turned out it's just a hole, maybe not as big as that, but a little hole in your foot. Once you get it cleaned, it basically takes a couple of weeks for it to heal. So, came out of hospital. I didn't have keys to my house. My ex at that point was heading out. This was something they had planned, which, fair enough. I mean, it is what it is. And this is where, like, the next part of the story unfolds. So I had to get the keys off her. She'd went somewhere, got the keys, and then just spent that day with my cats, back home, foot up. And then it was basically just, I took time off my work. I could have did like white duties, with my foot up. But to be honest, I didn't really have that much mobility, and to keep off my foot as much as possible was going to be the best way. So I just took it off. I just said, you know what, I'm going to go back when I can go back, and the work was brilliant, absolutely superb. But the healing process happened, but all the way through this, from probably December, there was issues and problems with my relationship with my wife, now ex. Um, and I was going through quite a lot, like, you know, my health issues with my foot, and just this kind of unknown stuff at home was kind of compounding the foot and the health, and was putting more health and stress on me. Um, and then as I started to heal and back to my work, and I knew things weren't great. Things hadn't been great for a while, and I'm not going to get into details because at the end of the day, it's whose fault it is. It doesn't really matter. It is what it is. The course of time we went through, it it was just it is what it is. My favourite saying: "It is what it is." And it was irreparable. We couldn't go back, and I was actually heading out. My mum and dad and my brother had phoned to go to a local pub for my birthday dinner. I didn't actually know it was for my birthday, although I kind of did, but I didn't. And I was on the phone, and my ex came in, and because she knew I was talking to my mum, and I was going for my dinner, she didn't know whether she was invited. But prior to this, I had talked to my mum because I had to confide in somebody. I didn't have anybody in that house, my old house. I had nobody to talk to, really. And my mum's no stupid, you know. My mum didn't come up the Clyde in a banana boat. That's maybe I don't even know if that's a good term to use, but my mum's no stupid. She knows exactly where I am physically, mentally. She could see it, and she wasn't surprised. So my mum knew bits and bobs about it, which kind of annoyed my ex. But then at the end of the day, who can I talk to? I can't. That's the only person I can really confide in. And no disrespect, but my brother and my dad, I know exactly what you want to talk about relationships. Although they're probably good in a way at at talking. Don't judge a book by its cover. But anyway, I was on the phone, and Karen, or my ex, sorry, didn't know if she was invited because she didn't know where she was at that time. And I just went, no, no, you're not invited. No, not in a bad way, but I just said no. When I got off the phone, um, she basically, we talked because we were never really talkers in that relationship, which I could talk all day for hours and end. I love talking. I love talking about a lot of things. But we were never really talkers in that relationship, which is one of the reasons why it broke down. And we kind of, it wasn't even really in a good way, not in a bad way either, but it wasn't like done right. It was like bits and bobs, and like, well, it's not really working out, and it hasn't been. And she said it hadn't been working out for years, and basically that was it. I mean, it wasn't. To be honest, it wasn't really a nice way to do it. But that day, it was ended. That was it. It was over. So I get ready. I was basically leaving in like 30 minutes. Got my gear on, walked in. I can remember walking over the bridge, and I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I would probably if we never had that conversation, I don't even know. Like, I would still be there. I'm not saying that she left me. I think we both kind of did it with just circumstances. But when I walked over the bridge, and I was actually tearing up. I was actually like crying. I never had tears rolling down my cheek, but I was emotional, man. I was really struggling because I'd been trying for the last couple of months. But this happened So February I was in hospital, I recovered April, probably May I went back to work. So this would have been maybe the tail end of May that we split up. I think May, June. I think it was May. So that whole time, like from January to May, I was thinking how I could save my relationship, with my wife. And I was thinking I'd gone through, right, do we get back on the sex regime? Do we, because that had just gone out the water. That was dead. I'd been dead for years. And I thought, let's do this. And it was all like mental, because at work you think a lot, good and bad. And for months I was trying to work out how can I save this. And there was that kind of like failing, being a failure. It's never a good thing in life. And I thought about it so many times. Couldn't really talk to my wife because it's just the way we were. Couldn't really talk to anybody about it, so it was all internal. It was all just crushing me up inside. And there was other things as well that were happening that just really compounded a lot of the stress factors. And as I say, I walked across that bridge and I was an emotional. I was breaking down basically. But the good thing out of that was I was meeting my mum, my dad, and my brother. So I had something that I could go and get. I keep farting in this chair. It's no farting. It's just the weather. So eventually met with my mum, dad, and my brother, and I basically sat down and I said, right, okay, we're all here. Basically, me and my ex, it's over. And at that point, my life was not going to be easy. Right, I'd have to move out of that house. I'd probably have to move back with my mum and dad, which, to be honest, was never really an option. And basically, I can still see it to this day. My brother's sitting there with his arms like this, folded, and he just said, "Wee man, I'll no see you in the street. I'll buy you a 1-bedroom flat." Oh God, that got me. Oh, oh Jesus. Oh, oh. Do you know what? I'm not. I don't stage things. I mean, this is completely ad lib. I'm not. I'm, this is no crocodile tears, but that, just the way I said it, it took me back to that exact moment. And at that time, I'm not a spiritual man. I don't believe in. I actually don't really believe in God. I don't really believe in any of that stuff. But that was like a shaft of light just coming through from a really cloudy sky. I just saying it there just really brought it back, and yeah, and that was that. So my brother's been good with money, and I basically don't have. There's nothing I can really do that will ever pay my brother back. In a way, I owe so much, and it's at that time it was really like you actually don't really know just how much of a ray of light it was. It took a situation that would have been a nightmare, and finding a place that wasn't a shithole, you know, it's just not worth thinking about. And we basically, I'll not get into the details of the houses because I've already, Jesus man, it's been 29 minutes. Oh, but we looked at, I think, 1, 2, 3 properties that were just, I mean, they're okay, but we were getting nowhere. And we came in here, and it was like, as soon as I walked in this place, I phoned that day got a viewing the next day, came in, I went, yep. I just knew, there's a feeling, and I went, this is it, this is where I want to be. And basically, I think the bids were up, was it the week after? And we get basically, we put bids in, and then we get first offer, because we were the first ones to view it. Although I think it'd been in the market before, and my mum put a bid in, so it was basically my brother's money plus my mum's and dad's. I keep saying my mum, but my dad, I've always said mum, but my mum and dad put in a bit extra, and we got it. And it was the same. I can remember my mum phoning me. I was actually heading out with a ex-work colleague. Um, I was heading out. In fact, I was actually getting ready to go. And my mum phoned, and she basically phoned up and said, because I knew there was a bid being put in, and my mum said that they accepted a bid, and she kind of paused because she was going to tell me that it wasn't. And then she said my brother's name, and I was the same. I lost it. I was absolutely, just tears were rolling down my cheek. And that was basically it. So that process took a while. I moved in here on the 9th of August. So probably June, we started looking. July, it must have been June we split up. I can't remember. But we basically put in, it took like 4 or 5 weeks or something, even 6 weeks before we actually moved in, got the keys. And I was lucky, I didn't have to really decorate. Everything's just the way it is. It was just perfect. Just move in, bring the stuff, set it up, done and dusted. And that's been me since. Love life has been, yeah, it's I'm not sitting in my arse not doing anything, but that's problematic as well, because I'm just really like quite damaged from the last 4 years. I'm not gonna lie, were emotionally just damaging for me. But that has been my year. Like the last couple of months have been pretty good, and I'm really in a better place now. Okay, I'm alone, but I've got people around me. I've got new friends that I've met. I'm kind of like forging ahead somewhere. I'm not resting on my laurels, as I say. But yeah, it's been a traumatic year. Like the first 6 months were just horrible. The latter 5.5 months, whatever it's been, since I moved here, I've actually started to heal to the point where I actually feel that I'm starting to lose my white hair. I'm starting to get a little bit more grey back. But I do feel better. I feel more comfortable in this environment that I'm in, that I've built. I say all thanks to my family, because without them, I wouldn't be here. But yeah, so before this day ends, I've got I've got a future, and that's the thing. That's the real good thing about all of this, is that I'm healing. I haven't really been doing a lot of my like gaming, my PlayStation since I've moved here. I don't know if I actually released this video, but I actually came up with the thought that at my old place, my PlayStation was almost like like a panic room. In a sense, I went in there, I shut the door, and I just played my PlayStation, and it took me away from all the shit that I had round about me. And since I moved up here, I barely played it. I could probably it probably wouldn't even amass to like a complete day of play on my PlayStation, because I'm watching videos, I'm watching live streams on it, but actually playing, like, that was my bulk. I'd probably say that almost every other day I was putting up videos, content, and recently I just haven't been doing that. I probably will get back to doing it, but I just really got away from it, and you know, but I'm not. I do miss it, but I don't miss it as well. I feel I'm happier. But that's my year to date. Um, Quite a year, quite an emotional year. But as I say, looking forward, things are good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sign off. Anybody that knows me, that's maybe watched my streams, my gaming, and think, oh, he's not released a PJ Tour video in a while. I might actually go and do one actually just after this, um, before the end of the year. But I just want to thank everybody, anybody that knows me, even people that I've met online, like there's people in America that I've met. Wesley, again, she probably knows. But people like that have actually helped me and are helping me process my life going forward. And it's sometimes you don't need somebody physically to be there, but even just remotely being there to talk to is just an absolute. It's just great. And there's other people as well that I've met along the way that have really helped me, and are true friends that are there for you. So I just want to wish everybody a happy new year when it comes, and I guess I'll see you next year. I probably should have a Gaelic word or some Scottish word, but haste you back. Anyway, take care, folks. To the whips.